Welcome to our channel. Today, we're uncovering some of the rarest Lincoln Memorial pennies that could be hiding in your pocket change. They may look ordinary, but a few of these coins are worth much more than 1 cent, if you know what to look for. Let's get started. Let's start today's video with a coin that many of us have probably come across at some point, a penny that's often overlooked but has a story that makes it worth a second look. We're talking about the 1968 1-cent coin from the United States. At first glance, it looks like any other Lincoln penny. Small, copper-colored, and instantly familiar. You've likely seen one just like it in your change jar, in a drawer, or even in an old wallet. But what if we told you that a rare version of this coin, struck over 50 years ago, has sold for over $100,000, yes, a single penny, with a face value of just 1 cent, has reached six-figure territory. And in a few minutes, we'll show you exactly what makes that happen. Let's take a closer look. The 1968 penny was minted during a time of transition for U.S. coinage. In the years leading up to it, the U.S. Mint was trying to adapt to rising production costs, shifts in collector interest, and public demand. By 1968, the penny had been featuring the image of President Abraham Lincoln for nearly 60 years, a design introduced in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The obverse, or front, of the coin still carried Lincoln's right-facing profile, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial was now the standard, a design that had replaced the original wheat ears in 1959. This update gave the coin a more modern feel, and if you look closely at the memorial on any Lincoln cent minted from 1959 to 2008, you'll actually see a tiny outline of the seated Lincoln statue inside the building, a small detail that's often missed. Back in 1968, the U.S. Mint was operating in 3 key locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia-made coins didn't carry a mint mark at that time. Denver coins were marked with a small d, and coins from San Francisco featured an S mint mark just below the date. While most of the pennies struck that year were made for everyday use, and we're talking billions of them, there was also a special group of coins produced specifically for collectors: proof coins. These proof coins are different from regular circulation strikes. They're made using specially prepared dies and polished planchets, resulting in sharper details and a mirror-like finish. Proof coins aren't found in everyday change. Instead, they're sold directly to collectors in boxed sets, carefully handled and packaged by the Mint. In 1968, the San Francisco Mint was responsible for producing these proof sets. And it's from one of these sets that our story really begins. Among the 1968 S-proof pennies, a very small number left the Mint with a noticeable and unusual error: a double die on the obverse. This means the coin's front design was imprinted twice, but slightly offset. As a result, parts of the text, like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1968, appear doubled. This isn't a manufacturing defect you need a microscope to see. In the most significant examples, the doubling is clear even with the naked eye. It's crisp and bold, and it affects some of the most recognizable elements of the design. These errors occurred during the die creation process, not during the coin striking itself. So, every coin struck from a double die has the exact same misalignment, making it easy for collectors to identify and confirm. This particular variety is officially known as the 1968 S double die obverse, and it's one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cent varieties out there. To make things even more interesting, these coins were only available in sealed proof sets, meaning there's a chance they've been sitting untouched in a box for decades. That's part of what makes them so exciting. They're not circulating in the wild, but they might be hiding in plain sight among older collections or inherited sets. What really drives up the value of these coins, aside from rarity, is condition. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with higher numbers indicating better preservation. The color of the coin also matters, especially with copper. Freshly struck copper coins have a reddish shine. Over time, they darken to a brownish tone. A coin that still retains its original red color and hasn't been handled or exposed to air will usually grade higher and fetch more value. So when a coin like the 1968 double die obverse is found in high grade, with a deep mirror finish, sharp doubling, and a bright red tone, it becomes something very few collectors will ever own. Now, let's talk about real numbers. Back in 2021, a 1968 double die obverse penny, graded PR66RD, that's proof, red, and in near pristine condition, was sold at auction for $47,000. That alone is remarkable. But even more impressive are the top examples that have been sold privately. According to expert collectors and confirmed private sales, the most flawless known examples of this coin have sold for as much as $119,000. That's $119,000 for a 1-cent coin. Let that sink in for a moment. A coin that was originally part of a low-cost proof set, possibly bought for just a few dollars in the late 1960s, now holds six-figure value, simply because of a minting anomaly and well-preserved condition. The next rare coin on our list today is one that looks so ordinary, you'd probably never think twice about it. It's the 1988 Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of people handled without knowing they were holding something unusually valuable. There's nothing flashy about it. No bold errors, no shiny features that stand out right away. But as you'll see in a moment, it's a perfect example of how a small design difference can lead to a big increase in value, especially when that difference wasn't supposed to be there. Let's look at what makes this one so interesting. In 1988, the Lincoln cent was still going strong. It had been part of U.S. coinage since 1909, and by this time, the reverse design featured the Lincoln Memorial, something that had become standard since 1959. The composition had changed by the early 1980s, so by 1988, pennies were no longer made of mostly copper. Instead, they were copper-plated zinc, lighter and cheaper to produce. From the outside, everything about the 1988 penny followed the usual pattern. Same obverse with Lincoln's portrait. Same reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. Same general layout. But here's where things get unusual. Some coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which means they have no mint mark, show a subtle but important design detail that doesn't match the rest. It has to do with the FG initials on the reverse, located just to the right of the Lincoln Memorial steps. These initials represent Frank Gasparo, the designer of the reverse, and they appear on every coin with this design. But on certain 1988 pennies, the initials are shaped and positioned like they appear on the 1989 penny, not the 1988 version. That means the US Mint used a 1989 reverse die on a 1988 planchet, creating what's known today as the 1988 reverse of 1989 penny. This kind of thing isn't unheard of, it's called a transitional design variety, and it usually happens when a new die is accidentally used before it's officially meant to go into production. These mistakes are rare, but when they're discovered, they tend to get a lot of attention from collectors. Why? Because they weren't intentional, weren't publicized, and only a small number were ever made before the mistake was corrected. What makes this even more interesting is that it went completely unnoticed at the time. No one expected a design change that year, so the difference slipped past most collectors and dealers. To spot this specific variety, you have to look closely at the FG initials. On a normal 1988 penny, they're slightly farther away from the base of the memorial, and the letters appear somewhat softer or more spaced out. On the reverse of 1989 design, the FG is tighter and sits much closer to the structure. That small shift, just a fraction of a millimeter, is what separates a regular coin from a rare one, and it's exactly this small design overlap that gives the 1988 reverse of 1989 penny its value. It's not flashy, and most people would never notice the difference. But for collectors, that subtle variation tells a story, one of how US coins evolve, and how sometimes, the tools of one year accidentally carry over into another. Collectors often enjoy finding these varieties because they represent a unique piece of minting history. They're not mass-produced errors, they're moments of transition captured on a coin. But how rare is it? The total number of these 1988 transitional variety pennies is unknown, but they're considered extremely scarce. Only a handful of high-grade examples have been confirmed and graded by major services like PCGS and NGC. And because this wasn't a traditional mint error, like a misstrike or off-center coin, many of these may have gone unnoticed or ended up in circulation, lost among billions of other pennies. That's part of what makes it so exciting. It could still be out there, sitting in a roll of old coins, in a drawer, or in someone's childhood collection. You'd never know unless you specifically checked. As with all rare coins, condition is key. The cleaner the surfaces, the sharper the details, the better the color, the more desirable the coin becomes. And in the case of the 1988 reverse of 1989 penny, condition plays a major role in value. Coins with visible wear or damage are still collectible, but it's the uncirculated examples, the ones that still have that bright original color and no signs of use, that bring in the highest numbers because it's such a subtle design difference. Many of these rare coins have been overlooked for decades. That's why it's always worth checking even the most ordinary-looking coins with a fresh perspective. And here's what it all leads up to: this specific 1988 penny, when confirmed as the reverse of 1989 variety and found in high-grade uncirculated condition, has reached a value of $63,000. If you've got rolls of pennies from the late 1980s, it might be worth going through them again. Focus on the 1988 coins from the Philadelphia Mint, the ones with no mint mark, and look closely at the initials to the right of the memorial. You never know what might be sitting right there in your collection. Now let's move on to another penny that caught collectors by surprise, the 1991 D. Lincoln cent. At first glance, this coin looks like something you'd expect to find in any pocket or coin jar. It was minted in the early 90s, well within the modern era of coin production. Billions were made that year, and nearly all of them were spent, saved, or forgotten. But among all those ordinary pennies, a small handful left the Denver Mint with a detail that wasn't supposed to be there, and that tiny detail is exactly what makes this coin so valuable. This isn't about a dramatic error like a missing design or a misprinted date. In fact, you could easily miss it if you weren't looking closely. But once you know where to look, the difference becomes very clear, and very important. Let's break it down. On the back of every Lincoln cent, the word America appears as part of the text, United States of America. Now, in most 1991 pennies, if you zoom in on the word America, you'll notice a visible space between the letters A and M. They're separate, clean, and evenly spaced. That's what was expected on circulation coins in that year. But in a few rare 1991 D pennies, that gap is missing. The A and M are much closer together, almost touching, a design detail known as a close AM reverse. So how did that happen? The answer lies in how the US Mint prepares its dies, the tools used to strike the designs onto coins. In 1991, proof pennies, the specially made coins for collectors, had slightly different design features compared to regular circulation coins. One of those features was the close AM design on the reverse. These proof dies were only meant to be used at the San Francisco Mint, not at Denver. But at some point, a proof reverse die made its way into circulation coin production at the Denver Mint. As a result, a small number of 1991 D pennies were struck using the wrong reverse, creating a rare and unexpected variety. This was never intentional. It wasn't part of a design change or an experimental issue. It was simply an internal mix-up, and because it's such a subtle detail, no one at the time caught it. These coins were released into circulation like any other, unnoticed and unremarkable. That's why they're so scarce today. Most 1991 D pennies were used, lost, or damaged over time. The few that do have the close AM reverse are already rare, but finding one in excellent condition is even harder. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often search for these small design changes. It's not just about rarity, it's about finding something that most people would overlook. These coins tell a different kind of story, not about a famous event or a change in metal content, but about a tiny production slip that escaped detection. This is one of those varieties where patience and sharp eyes really pay off. Even coin dealers miss it if they're not careful. Over time, these transitional varieties and die mismatches have gained more attention in the numismatic world. As collectors continue to examine older coins with modern tools and knowledge, more of these rare varieties are being documented, but they still remain few and far between. And that's what makes this 1991 D penny so special. It blends in with the rest, until you take a closer look. So, how do you know if you have one? Start by checking the mint mark. This variety only applies to coins minted in Denver, so it must have a D below the date. Next, flip it over and look at the word America. Use a magnifier if you need to. If the A and M are nearly touching, you might have a close AM variety on your hands. From there, the next step is professional authentication. Services like PCGS or NGC can confirm whether your coin is the rare variety and give it a grade, which determines its condition and ultimately affects the value. Now let's talk numbers. A regular 1991 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent. But if it's one of the rare close AM varieties, and it's in pristine condition, we're talking sharp details, no damage, and strong eye appeal, the value jumps dramatically. One verified example of the 1991 D close AM penny, found in high-grade uncirculated condition, has been valued at $59,000. That's right, $59,000 for a coin most people wouldn't give a second glance. No silver, no gold, no historic date, just a tiny detail in the spacing of 2 letters that changed everything. And the best part? Most people still don't know to look for it. That means these coins could still be out there, mixed in rolls, stuck in drawers, or hidden in collections that have never been carefully checked. Even for seasoned collectors, discovering one of these pennies can be an exciting moment, a reminder that sometimes, the smallest details can hold the greatest surprises. So, if you're looking through your pennies, slow down on the 1991 DS. What seems like an ordinary coin could turn out to be something extraordinary. Let's continue, there's more to uncover in today's list. Up next is a coin that looks ordinary but has a story that's anything but. The 2004 1-cent penny, a modern Lincoln cent that, despite its recent date, is turning heads in the collecting world for all the right reasons. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909, has long been one of the most recognizable and widely circulated coins in American currency. Featuring the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the coin has gone through subtle design changes over the decades, but it remains a staple of everyday transactions. The 2004 penny belongs to the modern era of this series, produced in massive quantities, billions minted for circulation at multiple mints across the country. Because these pennies were so common and recent, many people simply don't think twice when they see one. They're often overlooked, tossed in jars or lost in change trays. But among these everyday coins, there is a small but highly valuable group that stands out due to a fascinating minting error known as the double die obverse. This error is not a product of faulty metal or a misstrike, but rather a mistake during the die-making process. The die is the metal stamp used to press the design onto the blank coin. In the case of a double die, the die itself was created with an offset or doubling of the design elements. When a coin is struck with this die, the doubling shows up on the coin, often as a shadow-like second image, especially visible around letters and numbers. For the 2004 penny, this doubling appears most prominently around the date and the inscriptions on the front side. At first glance, you might not notice anything unusual. But under closer inspection, especially with a magnifier, you can see the doubling effect, a telltale sign of this rare variety. The discovery of the 2004 double die penny was not immediate. These coins entered circulation like any other, and it took some years before collectors began to identify and confirm this variety. By that time, many had been lost or worn down by circulation, which added to the rarity and value of those coins still in excellent condition. Why does this matter? Because mint errors like double dies are a unique window into the minting process. They tell a story about how coins are made and how small, sometimes accidental variations can create collectible treasures. They remind us that even in a highly mechanized and standardized system, surprises happen. Collectors prize double die coins because they are distinct and relatively rare. The 2004 double die penny is especially valuable because it's one of the few notable errors from the modern penny series, a coin type generally known for its consistency and volume. That if you want to identify this coin yourself, the key is to examine the obverse carefully. Focus on the date and the words around Lincoln's portrait. Look for any doubled or shadowed images, especially in the numbers of the date or the lettering. Using a loupe or magnifying glass helps reveal the doubling. Once you think you've found a double die penny, the next step is professional authentication and grading. Companies like PCGS and NGC have experts who verify these errors and assign grades based on condition. A high-grade 2004 double die penny can command a premium price. As more collectors become aware of this variety, demand continues to rise. This drives up the coin's market value, making it a sought-after piece in Lincoln cent collections. Despite being a modern coin, the 2004 double die penny carries a value that far exceeds its face value. The rarity, the quality of the error, and collector interest combine to make it a standout example of how even recent coins can become prized collectibles. It's also a great example of how the world of coin collecting is always evolving. New discoveries happen regularly, and what was once overlooked can suddenly become highly valuable. Collectors often share stories about the thrill of finding such a coin in an unsuspecting place, a pocket change roll, a jar, or even loose in a drawer. The idea that something so valuable could be hiding in plain sight adds an exciting layer to the hobby. This coin also serves as a reminder of the importance of closely examining coins rather than just taking them at face value. The details in minting can make all the difference. A tiny doubling or a subtle shift in design can be the difference between a common penny and a treasure worth thousands. Because the 2004 penny is so recent, some collectors who never thought twice about pennies now have a new reason to check their coins carefully. This keeps the market lively and ensures that demand stays strong. For those new to coin collecting, the 2004 double die penny is a perfect example of how even everyday coins can hold surprises. It's a great starting point for understanding mint errors and learning what to look for. Some experts believe that as more collectors become aware of the 2004 double die penny, prices will continue to rise, especially for coins in excellent condition. The market for modern era coins has been growing steadily, and this penny fits right into that trend. If you want to take a closer look at your pennies, focus especially on the date and the letters on the front. With patience and a magnifier, you might discover something unexpected. Today, a 2004 1-cent penny with the double die obverse, preserved in near-perfect condition, can be worth as much as $44,000. Moving on to our final coin in today's video, let's take an in-depth look at the 2014 Lincoln penny. While it may seem like just another everyday coin, this penny carries some subtle features that have sparked interest among collectors. It serves as a reminder that even modern coins, which you might pass by without a second thought, can sometimes reveal fascinating stories and unexpected value. The penny, or 1-cent coin, has been a fundamental part of American currency for over a century. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, marking the first time a U.S. president appeared on a circulating coin. Its design was a major shift in coinage history and remains one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage. By 2014, the Lincoln penny had been through various design changes and improvements, but its core appearance remained recognizable: the profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Union Shield on the reverse. Each year, billions of pennies are minted to meet daily economic needs, making it one of the most widely produced coins. The sheer volume of pennies minted each year means they are often taken for granted, treated as mere pocket change. Yet, every penny carries with it a story, from the metals used to the intricate minting process to the hands it passes through over time. The minting process for pennies involves multiple stages, beginning with the preparation of metal blanks. These blanks are made from a copper-plated zinc composition, a change implemented in 1982 to reduce production costs while maintaining the coin's iconic look. The blanks are then struck by dies that imprint the design. This process is highly automated and precise, but with millions of coins produced daily, minor variations sometimes occur. In the case of the 2014 penny, one such variation has caught the attention of collectors. This penny features a subtle doubling effect on certain design elements, particularly noticeable around the date and the lettering on the obverse side. What causes this kind of doubling? It typically results from slight misalignments during the die creation or striking process. Even the most modern and technologically advanced minting facilities can experience small shifts or layering effects that leave a doubled impression on the coin. This subtle doubling makes the 2014 penny particularly interesting because it bridges the gap between historic minting errors and modern coin production. While older coins with obvious minting mistakes have long been sought after, newer coins like this one remind us that the minting process continues to surprise collectors in small but meaningful ways. Since 2014 is quite recent, many coins are still in circulation, showing varying degrees of wear. Collectors prize examples that retain their original luster and sharp details, often found in rolls, uncirculated coin sets, or carefully preserved collections. A well-preserved 2014 penny showing this doubling effect can stand out and attract considerable attention. Collectors are drawn to coins like this because they represent a combination of rarity, condition, and story. The subtlety of the doubling requires a keen eye or the use of magnification tools, making discovery an exciting part of the hobby. Another factor that increases interest in this coin is the growing awareness among collectors and hobbyists. As more people learn about the possibility of such variations on modern pennies, demand for these coins grows. Unlike older coins, which have established price guides, the 2014 penny's value is less fixed and depends largely on market demand and the specific condition of each coin. This means that while it's difficult to state an exact price, coins with this feature can be highly valuable, especially when graded and authenticated by professional services. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC offer services to verify these coins and assign a grade based on condition and authenticity. Having a coin professionally graded can significantly affect its market value and buyer confidence. For collectors interested in searching for coins like this, it's recommended to examine pennies carefully, especially focusing on the obverse side where the doubling appears. Using a loupe or magnifying glass can help identify the subtle details. This coin also highlights the ever-evolving nature of coin collecting. The hobby isn't just about ancient or historic coins. Modern coins can surprise and excite with their own unique stories and rarities. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, the 2014 Lincoln penny with this subtle doubling is a reminder that the coins in your pocket might hold more than just face value. It encourages careful observation and curiosity, two key qualities in any successful collector. So, if you ever come across a 2014 penny, take a moment to examine it closely. You might be holding a piece of minting history that's quietly gaining interest among collectors. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed learning about these pennies and want to keep discovering more coin stories, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming coin collecting adventures. Until next time, happy collecting!